The Skull Co Jumpgate dock can be absolutely tiny, but will it brick your Switch? Let's find out. So maybe you want a second Switch dock. Well, they're pretty expensive. You're looking at around $70, maybe about £60 here in the UK. That's quite expensive, so maybe you're looking for an alternative, or maybe you just want a more portable and smaller version. And that's where the Skull Co Jumpgate dock comes in, because you're looking at about $40 or £40 here in the UK, which is a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper than the official dock. It's way more portable, it's got way more like features and functions with it, and well, it's pretty cool looking. But there was all that kind of jump scares about third-party docks bricking your Switch. So before we jump into the review of the Skull Co Jumpgate dock, I want to kind of like backtrack a little bit and kind of go over the whole bricking of Switches using third-party docks. So in 2018, we saw the Nyko dock and others bricking Switch consoles. Even Spawnwave had his bricked after the Switch update 5.0.0. So the main theory was to do with power requirements, because these docks that bricked the Switches weren't using the correct power delivery protocol hardware chips inside, which led to incorrect voltages, because the Switch takes like a 5 volt as a sort of test before jumping up to the stable 15 volts for output into docked mode. If the voltage isn't stable or accepted by the Switch, well then it can cause bricking. So the official Switch requires 39 watts or 15 volts 2.6 amps, and the Skull Co Jumpgate also requires 15 volts 2.6 amps and has power delivery. So there shouldn't really be any issue here. Now in theory you can use any power supply that provides the right amount of power, but I'd still recommend against it. Please just use the official charger that came with your Switch, the official Nintendo Switch plug, because that way you know you're going to be safe. So all of this isn't say that is 100% smooth sailing. There's always potential for you to get a faulty product that could still brick your Switch, but the chances are low. Luckily, Skull Co were smart enough to take all of this seriously and ran numerous tests on the Jumpgate, ensuring it's safe and meets the Switch's requirements. They even have a blog post and a detailed video going into all the tests, and they even test different docks and stuff as well. So they have taken this seriously, because they don't want a faulty product that's going to be bricking people's Switches, because they're going to have to kind of potentially do something about that, right? So I'm really happy that they've taken this seriously and they've actually looked into it, found out what the Switch requires and how to be safe. And that definitely fills me with more confidence going into, using a dock like this. So let's jump into the Jumpgate dock, right? And the review. I was a bit skeptical when they said they were going to send this over because of all that third-party stuff, and that's what led me down the road of researching it and kind of going in a bit more depth. But then I was like, you know what? They've done so much. I'm actually happy to try this out and put my Switch OLED at risk here, but I've not had any issues. I'm going to say that right now. So it comes in black or white. The white version is so nice though. I'm so glad that we got sent the white version. The size is absolutely tiny in comparison to the original official dock. It's maybe like a quarter of the size, and it can get smaller as well. So on the top we have the Skull Co logo, and then underneath I really like the fact that they've done this even though you don't really see it. It's pretty cool. There is a design there. So you've got like kind of Pac-Man, Space Invaders, some skulls and some Mario cubes. So that's really, really cool. And around the edges on the bottom, we have rubber feet to keep it in place too. Now also underneath there is a kickstand, because you can use this for tabletop mode. So you could even use a Switch Lite on this as a like charging system to use it as tabletop mode, right? So you could just plug your charger in it and it will charge a Switch, and you could still play in tabletop mode and just use that kickstand to prop it up so you've got a better angle. You don't have to use it as a dock, you can use it as a charging stand. To dock your Switch, there's a few things you need to consider. Are you using a case? And are you using a case with the little mini cutout behind, so behind that USB-C port? But if you're just docking the Switch with no case, well then you actually have to push down on the top of the dock and it springs up, revealing support for the Switch so that it actually stays in place rather than it being a bit wobbly. And so if you've got no case on it whatsoever, well then you just dock it like this. And from the back we can see passive vents too to keep it cool. And I do like this because at least there is a bit more like cooling here. It's only passive, just like the normal official official dock, but it's still nice that there is ventilation there. Also, that USB actually moves. So the USB-C wiggles backwards and forwards, and that's so that if you're a bit heavy-handed or if you put it in at the wrong angle, it's not going to damage your Switch. So if you're docking with a case, well then turn over the dock, lift the kickstand, and you'll see two levers. So press up to use it without a case, or press down to use it with a case. And this actually raises and lowers the USB-C, because when you've got a case on it, well then, you know, that USB-C needs to be pushed up higher so that it can actually reach the port properly. Now, if your case doesn't have the little mini cutout on the back, well then you can remove this little kind of guide bit as well. So that little piece of plastic just literally pulls out, and that's for use with a case that doesn't have that kind of little cutout on the back. So they really have thought of like everything here. It's not like you have to dock it without a case. They really have given you some options, and I do really like that. And also, of course, it's because they already make their own cases and accessories, while Skull Co want to make sure that all their stuff actually work with it. Now, I/O on the back, so the ins and outs. So on the back, there is a USB Type-C 3.1, and now this takes 100 watt input, which is crazy. There's an HDMI that supports 1080p 60 or up to 4K 30. So it's likely an HDMI 1.4 port, and I'll come back to this in a minute as to why it can take 4K. Then we have two USB 3.0s and an LED indicator. Now, the reason it's got 4K compatibility is because the dock isn't just all there is to it. There's a CoreDrive inside. So you can actually remove this by turning it upside down the dock and getting your thumb on the back there, and then you can slide the CoreDrive out, and that basically turns it into like a mini USB hub. Now, taking this out and turning it over, this reveals an SD and micro SD card reader, which supports up to 104 megabytes per second transfer, which is pretty quick, which is really, really cool. So the CoreDrive here is the heart of the dock and can be used with a PC, Mac, or phone as like an extension hub. And if your phone or tablet supports DEX, so DeX, you can actually use this to attach a monitor, a mouse, and a keyboard and turn your tablet or your phone into a mini computer. So that is why this HDMI port can support 4K 30, is because it's most likely an HDMI 1.4 port. And if you plug this into, say, your laptop, you can actually use this to connect a second monitor, or, you know, put accessories on like a mouse and keyboard or an external hard drive. Like, this isn't just a Switch dock, this is a full-blown accessory kit, essentially. It's like a micro USB hub, and I love that. So our version also came with a high-quality extension cable, and you can even use this to dock your Switch. So you can just plug the cable from the dock, so from the CoreDrive to the Switch, and then power it with the official charger, you know, plug in your HDMI, and that's it. It becomes the smallest dock ever. As you can see here, I tested it on our TV using literally just the Switch, the CoreDrive, and that cable. I mean, technically you could just plug the CoreDrive directly into your Switch without the cable, really. That's it. So this is crazy. It's a tiny, tiny dock. It's mad. But of course you have to lay the Switch down, so all of that. But if you're traveling, this could be perfect because you don't have to lug around a massive dock. You can just take the CoreDrive and you're sorted. But I do like the fact that there is a proper housing when you slide that CoreDrive back into the main body of the system. Well then, you know, it turns it into a dock where you can actually dock the Switch onto it, right? So the dock itself, well, the finish is really nice. It looks great. The build quality is good, but that top support is a little bit rattly when extended. But of course it is sprung loaded, so you'd kind of expect that. I feel like they've put a lot of time into designing this and taking into consideration, you know, the factors of using a case or not. Like I said, they're really making sure that this is versatile enough to use your own accessories or their accessories, and you can really tailor how you want to use this. I love the fact that that CoreDrive is detachable. I really enjoyed the design of this because they've put a lot of thought into it. And of course, for me, that is a content creator, well, having a compact USB hub with SD card readers and a Nintendo Switch dock all in one, just one handy little unit, is super good for me. Like, I love that because I could take this anywhere. I could take my laptop, my Switch, that little tiny dock, even just the CoreDrive, and I can use this to you know, to do whatever I want. So in general, I really like this, and I'm confident that my Switch will be safe using it, considering the test that Skull Co went through in the design process. So at around $30 or £20 less than the official dock, and being versatile with multiple uses, I definitely do recommend this as a second dock. And I've been testing this for a few weeks now, and I've not had any issues at all. I've been leaving my dock, you know, I've been leaving my Switch on the dock, I've been leaving it charging, I've been playing it on different screens, so my TV and my PC monitors behind. It is great, and I'm actually going to be keeping it right here to use this as the dock that I'm going to use to capture gameplay footage, because it's such a small dock, and I just have a computer just here, and there's like a tiny bit of space that I had the big dock before there. Well, now I've got a really sleek little setup here, and I'm really happy with that. So I'm quite like pleased about this. I went into this thinking, oh no, I don't even really want to test it because I've heard all the horror stories of the third-party docks, blah blah blah, and I was a bit skeptical. But doing the research, testing it out, like, and seeing what Skull Co have done as well, I'm really happy with this. And I actually recommend it. I do. So there you go. And if you want to check out our other Skull Co videos, well then just here, we've got the Neo Grip and the Grip Case videos as well. So I've got reviews of the Grip Case and the Neo Grip. So go and check those out by Skull Co, and you can click on them right here. But before you do anything, make sure you go down there and subscribe first. Just subscribe. Just do it.